Greetings, folks, and welcome to another one of our free Friday community classes right here on the YouTubes. I put these casual little me to you conversations, chats up on the YouTube every single Friday. So if you're interested in this content, hit the subscribe button. Let me know you're out there and you'll get a little ding every time a new class goes up. So this week, talking about a topic that's actually very, very important in all kinds of plant spirit work. This is not something that you're going to hear talked about in allopathic, reductionist pop herbalism, or even in most sort of pop forms of reductionist magic and spell work, right? This just gets totally left in the dust for good reason. There's at least a good explanation for it, right? So what we're talking about is faith, hope, trust in the work. And this is a sticky topic because a lot of folks, especially people I think who are seeking out a re-engagement with animist, nature-based, earth-oriented spiritual paths, spiritualities, are oftentimes coming out of a spiritual tradition that is, not that. It's sometimes anti-animist, it's transcendental, it's get out of here as quickly as possible. Nature is a lie. Nature is an illusion. Nature is a trap. That's the opposite of animism, right? So a lot of people are coming from these traditions that didn't nourish or didn't support or acknowledge their own spirits, their own calling, the things that felt right and virtuous and important to them. And so those traditions, because they're transcendentalism, they're based on faith, right? Because those traditions are based on things that happen elsewhere, not here, we have to be really rooted in our faith to trust that all the things the religions teach us are true. Animism is lovely because it allows us to engage with things that actually are happening, right? We can go out and actually engage with a tree. We can go out and sit on a mountain. We can put our hands in the dirt, soaking up actual sunshine. And so these concepts of faith kind of get put by the wayside. And I think that contemporary pop herbalism, contemporary pop spell work, charm work, sorcery, witchcraft, insert whatever, wherever, has almost overcorrected to the point where when you read most modern tomes of herb magic, for example, even by people that I really respect, there's not really a conversation about faith. It's like, this plant does this for humans, so if you put this plant in an incense blend, this is going to happen, and the plant's going to do all the work. And you already know that I take issue with that part of it. We'll save that for a different class. But there's no talk of faith. And I wanted to discuss this because I think faith is important for a few different reasons. When we look at, for example, the Pusenga traditions, the Perfumero traditions, right? When you read interviews and writings by some of these indigenous shamanic practitioners, shamans, you see them constantly saying, my client has to fully lean into the medicine. They have to believe that when they put on the perfume that I make them, that everything will be adjusted. If there's any kind of doubt in the magic, then there's doubt in the plants, then there's doubt in the self, then there's doubt in the deservance, and the whole thing falls apart. So even in other traditions, we see people talk about this. And for me, faith in the plant spirits is justified, right? We're totally justified in having faith in them because we are actually fully codependent on them, and I can prove it to you, right? If I remove all plant influence from your life, you will cease to exist. They literally keep us alive. So they deserve our faith. It's warranted. It's not faith in the sense of like believing in something there's no proof of. It's believing in the efficacy of the relationship of something that does actually exist, right? The other part of it, and this is something that really early on the plants challenged me with as they were teaching me, is without faith in them as sovereign, wise, conscious persons, and without faith in the work itself. Like, so whatever the work is the work drinking a cup of chamomile tea, or doing a ritual with a plant, or doing a plant spirit journey, or doing a candle magic with an herb. It doesn't matter what the work is. Without faith, the path is very muddled. It's very sort of thick with bramble, okay? Faith seems to open the ways. It kind of clears out obstacles, but what the plants reflect when we start doing this faith work is that the primary obstacles that faith roots out are the ones that we create ourselves. They're the ones that we use to get in our own way. So when there's not faith that the plants have a harmonious agenda, that they're willing to help us, that we can enter into relationship with them, that there's a transformative effect there, then there's the opposite of faith, which is distrust, catastrophizing, disbelief, right? Living in this very non-magical life, which again steps into that space of being anti-animist. So faith gets a lot of parts of us to sit down and shut up, right? The what if kind of gets disarmed with faith, because our response to that, what if this doesn't work? What if I'm making this up in my head? What if the plants don't care about us? What if the world would be better with no humans? Like, this is just using personal examples here. When we get caught up in circling the drain with that stuff, we come back into our faith and remember the plants have been here for 400 plus billion years. They've seen it all, heard it all, done it all, watched it all, and they continue to show up for us. And they're worthy stewards of our faith, of our hope, of our trust. And there's something about kind of constantly goading yourself back into that space of faith that starts to quiet all the sort of periphery of what if, right? And this is something, for me, I struggled really hard with this when my relationship with plants sort of went into a deeper level, when really all of the spiritual practices in my life fell away in favor of the cultic practices of the plant path. I came out of a very transcendentalist spiritual tradition, very dogmatic tradition. So this was stark for me to embrace the plants in the way that they had been like poking me for years and years and years and years, to like let go of that stuff. And I'm certainly not saying anybody has to do that to be successful in this work. That's not it. But for me, it certainly was. It was kind of like, you're either all in or you're not. There was this fence writing, hedge writing thing for me that just wasn't working. So I guess the thing that I want to drive home in this week's class is that obviously you have to fill this out for yourself. I'm never going to approach this work in a dogmatic, authoritarian way. That's not who I am, and that's not the way I want to do the work, and it's not the way the plants want the work done. But you can play with the idea. You can try it on, the idea of exploring, are the plants good stewards of your faith, of your trust, of you doing the trust fall? And if you come to a conclusion that they are not, then hopefully that gives you more questions to explore. Well, why not? What has happened in my situation that's created this disconnect, or why don't I feel that way? And maybe you come to the bottom of the garden and it's just not for you. You're like, look, I'm not trusting these non-human persons that I don't even know if they're real. I'm just not doing it. I'm still going to respect you. We're still going to be able to do all kinds of fun plant stuff together. But more often than not, when we sort of make the mind map and we do the exploration, we find, wow, of all the non-human persons I have offered my trust to over the course of my life, plants are maybe the one that makes the most sense, that feels the most sane to me, right? And what you will also find is that the power of that faith, which in Chinese medicine, is probably, this is conjecture, but it's probably a manifestation of the spirit yi, the intellect, the part of us that can project into the future, where we set intent. And you hear me talk about yi and intent all the time. I think faith is wrapped up in intent, like pretty heavily, so that's something you could kind of meditate on, kind of sit with and see, the next time you're stuck in traffic, how are intent and faith, maybe intermingled. What you will find is that your medicine crafting and your medicine receiving start to change when faith is rooted in the practice. So when you make a tincture, a salve, a balm, an oil, an incense, an herbal candle, a bath, whatever, and there's faith there, you just know that because those plants are in your hand and in your heart, that they've shown up. They've already done the thing you're being faithful that they'll do, right? They've already done the thing that most people struggle with doing, which is the showing up part. They showed up. It'll change the depth, and it'll change how lubricated that pathway is, and then your intent really gets in there. And then the medicine taking the part, the medicine receiving, the magic receiving, the carrying of a sachet, the smoldering of incense, the burning of an herbal candle, the dosing of a tincture or a tea pill, or putting balm on a wound, like, again, whatever. Suddenly, you're able to step into that moment in this really open space, this really squishy space where you're like, I know what the label says about this plant, but I'm willing to go deeper. Like, I trust this plant so much that if they want to adjust a part of me that's different than what the label says, that's different than the good for, I trust that. I trust that completely, and I'm totally willing to go there because I know they will keep me grounded, in the best thing for me. So now we have that thing where the parasympathetic response of medicine work, which is a real thing, by the way, in my experience, that sometimes people have a stress response to the prospect of healing or the prospect of journeying, because they know, especially with plant medicine, herbal medicine. I'm going to do a class in a few weeks on why we can't say plant medicine anymore. Herbal medicine, it's going to be a hard one. We know that they will go where they need to go, and that they can see things in a different way than we can, and that they are fully invested in our wellness, not in a human-centric kind of way, but in a nature kind of way, right? That nature wants everything to be harmonious, and plants are the great emissaries of nature, the great teachers of nature. So faith is a funny thing. It's, really triggering to some people. It's really wrapped up in a lot of weight for some people. But I think just like in, human relationships, when we start putting our faith with people and with situations and with works that will be safe and good stewards, they may challenge us, but they challenge and discomfort are different than danger, right? This is like a big thing with plants. Like, to be uncomfortable in a sit and to be in danger in a sit are two very different things. Sometimes we're uncomfortable. That's part of it. So I would be interested to hear from you all what you think about faith, if this has ever even crossed your mind, if you have had to wrestle with believing in the efficacy of plants, whether it's herbal medicine or herbal magic, or maybe personal, communications you've had with plants, of being able to wrestle with, do I trust this? Is this happening? Do I dare trust what the plant is giving me guidance about? All that. I think it's a very cool conversation, and it will always lead us into some really interesting places. So please feel free to share in the comments below. If you're watching this on Patreon, of course, our conversations go a little deeper. Please share that in the comments below on Patreon. And with that, I will send you out into the world with blessings of peace and plenty. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.